Hello guys, today I'm going to be telling you uh, another thing that every micronation should have, and every real nation for that matter should also have, and it is a government. So let's get started. So to understand exactly what kind of government suits your micronation the best is pretty simple. First off, uh, if you want the leader to have most of the power, like in a dictatorship, which Bedonia technically is a dictatorship. However, it does have a proper government system that could be like an example for other countries. With like a three-branch division. But the National Congress. And by the way, we only call the National Congress because we're used to saying that because it's really a parliament. They have slight power, while the beloved leader, aka me, has the most power. Now, you could go down that path, or you could go down the path of most micronations and make a monarchy. So, whatever suits you the best. So, I'll go into a few different types of government systems. And you choose what you think works best. So, you could be an autocracy, a monarchy, a democracy, communism. The list goes down so far. Now, I will say that I have heard about quite a few micronations that have gone communist. However, if history hasn't taught us by now, it doesn't really work out too well. So, Bedonia has had a communist revolution that sparked a civil war, but luckily Bedonia, the other side of the Bedonians, went to victory. So yeah. But basically what that means, the idea of communism is, it wants the complete abolishment of private property, and everything should be owned by everyone, and resources should be redistributed better. That's basically the idea of communism. Now, a democracy, which is a little bit more civilized, works pretty simple. So, in most democracies, there's usually a three-branch division to create checks and balances, with each branch all being equal, and they usually comprise of the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. Which Bedonia does have that, but it's not for checks and balances. It's for getting things done easier. But basically, how a democracy works is the leader has he basically has like a certain amount of time known as a term. Like, for example, in the United States, it's 4 years. Now, officially in Bedonia, it's 3 months. Because we're in the mix of democracy and dictatorship. So yeah. But we're starting to move towards when the leader feels it's right to call elections. In which, in some countries, if I remember right, is actually a thing. But basically, an election is when 2 or more people are running to become the next leader, and those guys are called candidates. And in the United States and some countries, they use something called the Electoral College, which Bedonia used to use because we have many provinces, but a few months ago it got abolished. But most countries use something called the popular vote. Basically, whichever gets a majority wins the election. Some countries use a supermajority, but I generally wouldn't recommend that, because supermajorities are just oof. If I remember right, Congress uses a supermajority. Congress in the U.S., not Bedonia. Now, on to the other ones. So an autocracy is basically the same as a dictatorship, but with only one guy. Well, I mean, they're basically the same thing, except autocracies can come in many forms. But usually they comprise of just one guy running the whole country. Now, a monarchy is what most micronations go by, and basically, they, in absolute monarchies, the king or queen or whatever the heck, they have absolute unchecked power to do whatever they want. Now, in a little bit more civilized monarchies called constitutional monarchies, they have a ceremonial head of state that's a monarch. Like, for example, the United Kingdom, it's King Charles. Well, there's a guy called the Prime Minister who does the real work. But that's just one of many. But yeah, in many countries across the world that run off of a monarchy, usually like the king or queen or emperor of said country are usually the head of state, while the prime minister does the real work. And that's really it for government forms. If you cannot think about anything, you can just make your own kind of government. But those are what most nations and micronations run by.